Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our 2022 grants webinar. My name is Sari Raskin, and I'm the Vice President of Grants and Community Leadership at the Community Foundation for Northern Virginia. I'm here with Jennifer Cochran, who is the Manager of Grants and Scholarships, and with Brandon Elledge, who is our Chair of our CIF grant process. We welcome you, and we look forward to a wonderful webinar that hopefully will be very informative and we'll answer many of your questions. As I will say many times during this presentation, if your questions are not answered during the session, please know that Jennifer and I are available to answer questions along the way, and we are here as resources. So with that, I'd like to just cover some housekeeping items first. One is that we will be recording this session. We know that many people may not be here because of snow delays with children and other challenges, so we are recording it. We are going to make it available, both the slides actually and the recording will be available both in an email for anyone who's registered, but then also on our website following today. Also, just quickly, all the applications for these processes are now officially live. If you are, as soon as you get off the session, if you want to start applying, feel free. And then also, this is a general overview of our processes, but we again are here to answer specific questions after the webinar. So if your questions are not answered, we are here to help you as well. With that, I'd like to pass it on to Brandon, who is the chair of the CIF this year, to do some introductions as well. Welcome, Brandon.
Thanks, Sari, and Happy New Year to you all out there, and welcome. I'm a member of the board of the Community Foundation here, and as Sari noted, the CIF grants chair here in my third year in that role. We're thrilled to have you all here with us this morning for this kickoff of the CIF and other grant making cycle for our foundation. For the past grantees and past applicants, so welcome back. For those new to the grant cycle here, the CIF and other grant making cycle that Sari will be speaking about, special welcome to you all. I want to thank each and every one of you and your organizations for all the good work that you do for our region to positively impact folks' lives who are in need here as we unfortunately enter this third year of the COVID pandemic. We were fortunate last year. We had a very successful, I think, record-breaking grant year for our CIF cycle, and we hope to be even more successful this year. So I'll turn it back over to Sari right now, who's helps this cycle be such a success. So thanks, Sari, to Jennifer and all to you and the team for helping lead this cycle again.
Thank you, Brandon. And we're so fortunate to have you also as our leader. And this is Brandon's second year chairing the process. And we look forward to your continued leadership. So thank you. So for those of you, as Brandon mentioned, there are probably many people who are past grantees. As we say every year, we encourage people to apply. Every year is a different year. We look at all the organizations with fresh eyes, and we always have a committee made up of issue area experts, donors, and community leaders that review the grants. And so we welcome new and past grantees. For past grantees, some of this is going to be a review, but there will be some new information that follows. So welcome. So just again, we are the Community Foundation for Northern Virginia. We were founded in 1978. We manage $89 million in total assets, and we have over 250 funds, donor advised funds and scholarship funds. In 2021, we awarded more than $6.5 million in grants and scholarships. And over the past 5 years, CF Nova has worked to develop the Permanent Fund for Northern Virginia, which currently stands at $20 million at current and planned gifts. And it's an endowment that will forever respond to need and seed innovation in our region. And it's the main source of funding for our discretionary grant cycles, which we're reviewing today. So we are so appreciative of all of our donors who've either made commitments or have given so far to our permanent fund. It is really making all of this grant making possible, and we're so appreciative. And what is a community foundation? So for those of you who are not familiar, we are a 501c3 public charity, just like all of you. We have many donor advised funds that help fund many organizations. We advise many of our donors. Many of our donor advisors know what they want to do, but we help facilitate that. We also are an unrestricted fund developer, as you're seeing through this process, to help meet critical community needs. We are geographically focused, and I'll review in a few moments what our geographic area is. And we see ourselves as experts on local needs and resources, both with just the learnings that we have continuously through all of you, actually, and then also through Insight Region, which is our data and research center, which I'll be talking about in a little bit later. Our mission is to grow philanthropy, to respond to need, seed innovation, and lead and convene the community. And we do that in a variety of ways. Grant making is only part of our story. We also offer many events, and through Insight Region, we're also providing data and reports. So we really see ourselves as a leader, and a leader to work with actually the private sector, government sector, social sector all together to really make a difference in our community. Our service areas, I mentioned earlier, our geographic areas, Arlington, Fairfax, Loudoun, Prince William counties, and then the cities of Alexandria, Fairfax, Falls Church, Manassas, and Manassas Park. So I want to take a few moments to talk about some highlights of some announcements and highlights that are happening at the foundation. And this is the new information for those of you who've been with us for a while. We launched, as many of you know, we launched Insight Region last year, which is our Center for Community Research. And to date, Insight Region has produced 4 data-driven reports to help us identify community needs. Excuse me. There we go. Help us identify community needs to help provide data, all in the theme of inclusive prosperity. And you can see all the 4 reports that were produced this past year. These reports are helping the community understand the needs of our region, but are also shining light and helping us understand data in our region and putting into context how we compare to other areas in the United States. We hope that this strategic resource guides us and our work, but also all of you and all of our partners in the other sectors that we work with. We also, Insight Region and all those reports that I mentioned are on our website. I know that many of you, which is wonderful, have included data from these reports in your applications to us and hopefully to other organizations and foundations for additional grant making opportunities. So again, all of this information is on our website. Please look around and feel free to read our reports. If you have any questions, I'm happy to connect you also with Elizabeth Hughes, who's our Senior Director of Insight Region as well. So a few other updates. We were very fortunate to receive, for the first time ever, the Community Foundation received a national grant that is helping us work with United Community, and we used some of our Lamont Fund. We funded the United Community to basically educate residents along the Route 1 corridor through their neighborhood ambassadors program around the child tax credit and the earned income tax credit. And we're very excited about this. We were thrilled to be able to partner both with this with United Community, but also get a national grant to be able to make it happen. And more information about that again is also on our website. But we are just so thrilled to be able to take advantage of some of the funding that is coming from the government and hopefully create sustainable change actually for families in our region. We also were very fortunate. We received a great amount of money from donors to be able to offer not 1, not 2, but 3 rounds of grants to organizations that are providing both immediate and long-term needs for the Afghan refugees that have arrived in Northern Virginia. And we are thrilled to be able to do that. And we were thrilled that so many people came forward with donations, but that also we were able to reach out and fund organizations that we haven't been able to fund in the past because of this grant, because of the funding that was available, but also people were able to find out about this opportunity through a grassroots effort that we did to really communicate this opportunity to organizations in our region. Also, three announcements around this specific grant making process. 1, the Safety Net Fund. We made the decision to change the name of the Safety Net Fund to the Poverty Relief Fund to reflect a clear description of what it supports, which is immediate relief for safety net support. So we are looking forward to continue to fund in emergency assistance and housing related issues, but we changed the name to really reflect what the fund is actually doing. Also, two additional exciting announcements. One, the Ross Robert Fund for the Arts. For the first time ever, we are able to fund through tiers, meaning based on budget size. We will be breaking down our funding levels, and we'll be explaining that in a few moments, but it's just very exciting to be able to have the flexibility and ability to fund organizations based on your budget size. And finally, we are so thrilled to announce that we are, for the first time, opening up a developmental and intellectual disabilities fund. And we have a generous donor who has brought funding forward and will hopefully be increasing that amount over year to year. But for the first time, we'll be able to offer a grant in that specific focus area. So again, I wanted to mention actually a big thank you also to our funder for the Ross Roberts Fund for the Arts as well, to make this happen as well. Again, through these generous donors, we are able to do things we have not been able to do before and really expand our reach in our community. So thank you. So this year, as I mentioned just now, this year for the 2022 spring grant opportunities, we will be funding in these areas. So as usual, aging, child and youth development. Again, as I just mentioned, developmental and intellectual disabilities is an addition. Education, mental health. We have mental health funding again this year. Military personnel and their families. The Lamont Fund will have a little less because of what I just mentioned, but it still has a nice amount of funding available. And then our Safety Net Fund, which is originally our Poverty Relief Fund. Again, our Environment Fund and our Ross Roberts Fund for the Arts. So very robust. We're very excited, and we're identifying issue area experts to help us really look at all of your applications that come to us as well. So we always discuss that there are more opportunities than grant making for all the nonprofits in our community. So one example, of course, is our first Tuesday session. We do it monthly. It's really an opportunity to sit with the CF Nova staff and talk about opportunities and challenges that you're having within your organization for us to help you think about your organization, help you brainstorm solutions and opportunities. And you can sign up on our Sign Up Genius that we send out periodically a few months ahead of time, but please, we welcome everyone to join us. I just want to mention for our 2022 CIF grantees and our environment and our arts grantees this year, our hope is that we will be doing site visits, hopefully in person, but if not in person, at least virtual. So you will have the opportunity, if you are funded, to have a site visit as well. But for those of you who do not receive funding or decide not to apply, First Tuesdays is a great way to connect with us as well. I also wanted to take a quick moment to mention our Shape at the Region conference, which is an annual conference that we host at the foundation. And this year we are hosting it on March 15, 2022. It will be a hybrid conference. And the topic, which I know is very relevant to all of our lives, will be around the struggle for basic mental health services in our region relating to affordability and accessibility. So stay tuned for more information. An email will be sent out in mid-January with information about our keynotes and panels. So just a quick overview of 2021. In the CIF of 2021, we had 146 applications were reviewed. We gave it $462,000, a little over that, to 35 nonprofits, and we had over 50 volunteers who served on 9 grant review committees. As you can imagine, as we're increasing our focus areas, we will be adding more volunteers to this effort, and there will be more funding also available because we're expanding our full process, which we're very excited about. Also, the Ross Roberts Fund for the Arts last year, 34 applications were reviewed. We gave out $60,000 to 3 nonprofits, and 6 volunteers served on the grant review committee. The Environment Fund, we had 7 applications, and we gave out 1 grant of $26,000, and 6 volunteers served on the grant review committee. In the case of Ross Roberts and the Environment Fund, our reach is continuing, we're growing, and I think organizations are starting to learn more about us and this opportunity. So we're looking forward to probably having more applications in both of those categories for this coming year. So our 22 criteria is similar to what it's been in the past. Everyone has to be a 501c3 organization, and grant requests can be for general or program support. Again, unrestricted funding. It could be to support, expand, or enhance existing programs or to start a new program. But again, if you want to apply for general operating, that is completely okay, and we welcome that. Applications for capital improvements, endowments, or scholarship awards will not be considered. And I want to reemphasize that we have a scholarship program at the foundation. And so we request that you do not apply for a scholarship program. Grants will be made to organizations providing services in the areas that I described earlier. One application per applicant. That's one application for all areas, meaning that only one application for this entire process. Please. And late and incomplete applications will not be considered. It's very clear in our found-in system. If you're not familiar with it, Jennifer will be talking about it in a few moments, that there will be a deadline and we will not accept applications after the deadline. So quickly, I'd like to go through each of our areas that we're funding this year. And again, if you're familiar with us and you've already been, and this is not relevant to you, feel free to come off, but if you'd like to continue to listen, please continue to listen in. Our aging fund is going to continue to fund older adults aging in place. And the grant amount this year is $35,000. It's going to be one grant provided at $17,500 a year per year for 2 years. So it's a 2-year grant. Our Child and Youth Development Fund, similar as in the past, criteria, after school summer activities, academic achievement, again, meeting the critical needs of this population. And the grant amount is $10,000, multiple grants. And we hope to have a larger amount than we had last year in the Child and Development Youth Development Fund. So we'll be able to give out multiple $10,000 grants. So again, this is one of our newest funds we're very excited about. And it's basically to help those in our region with cognitive disabilities gain meaningful employment. And we'll be giving out grants with a focus towards supporting families and individuals with developmental and intellectual disabilities. So again, we're going to be focusing on job training workforce skills, and there'll be one grant of $12,500. Education fund. Again, multiple grants. I'm hoping similar to what I just described with child and youth, that we'll have more money in this fund this year. So we'll be able to give out more grants. But again, in the areas of early childhood education, English language proficiency for adults and children, and then workforce and job skills. Mental health fund. Again, we are so thrilled that we have funding available again from another generous donor. Organizations and programs that provide mental health support and services to vulnerable populations. So again, general mental health, $25,000, one grant. We hope over time, and just as a plug for our event that's happening in March, we're hoping that our Shape of the Region conference will highlight the issues around mental health, and that we will be able to create a larger and larger fund, hopefully an endowment, a large endowment around mental health. So we'll forever be able to provide funding in this area in a more meaningful way. Military personnel and their families fund. Again, we're very fortunate. This is an endowment that we have, and we're able to give out $35,000 this year. There'll be 2 grants of $17,500 each. Emergency assistance and workforce job training are the 2 focus areas. And again, so thankful that we have this endowment and we're able to do this on an annual basis. Lamont Fund. So what I mentioned earlier around our partnership with United Community, we were able to use some of our Lamont Fund because the funding was specifically geared to and focused around the Route 1 corridor. And that is exactly what the geographic focus is of this fund. So it's really going to go to any of those focus. So it's very broad around meeting the needs of youth 0 to 18, but in all those areas that we described. So it's really very broad, and that it's basically to promote the development and education of economically disadvantaged children. So really high need, but again, along the Route 1 corridor in that geographic area. And we're going to be giving out 2 grants of $25,000 each, so a total of $50,000 this year. And our Poverty Relief Fund, which is now the Safety Net Fund. So Safety Net Fund, again, focused around housing and shelter and eviction, foreclosure, and then emergency assistance. We will, again, have made the decision not to support specifically food programs, but again, emergency assistance in those other areas are our focus. And we're hoping, as I said, about child and youth development and also about education, we're hoping our Safety Net Fund, we have a few additional dollars and hopefully we'll be able to give out even more grants this year. Our environment fund, another example of an endowment and how we're so fortunate. We're giving out one $30,000 grant this year. And as I mentioned earlier, we're hoping to receive more applications even than last year, have it be a little bit more competitive, but most importantly for us to continue to learn about the environment focus area. So we become more educated, and also as we hopefully have more dollars, can even expand our reach potentially in this focus area. Ross Roberts. So this again is an exciting opportunity for us as well. As I mentioned earlier, we are able this year for the first time in the history of all of our community investment fund processes, we are able to give out grants based on budget size. So we've created a 3-tier process, and we'll be giving out 4 $5,000 grants for organizations with budgets under 100,000, 2 $10,000 grants for organizations with budgets under 500,000, and then 2 $20,000 grants for budgets above 500,000. And we are really hoping that this will really give an opportunity specifically to some of these smaller arts organizations, so they can be compared with their peers versus compared with organizations that are very different sizes than they are. So again, we really are hoping this is will be a really beneficial opportunity for many organizations to apply for funding and to really be compared with their peers on a more level playing field. And we're really excited. And again, we're so thankful for our donor who's really making this possible for us. So now what I'd like to do is pass it on to my colleague, Jennifer Cochran, who will talk about the next stages of how we're moving forward and go through the found-in system. Jennifer.
Thank you, Sari. So Sari mentioned earlier the process for applications, and the process this year will be the same as other years. Initially, we have staff screening and reviewing the applications to ensure that they are complete and have been submitted in the correct category. And then we move into committee review. And as Sari had mentioned, our committee members are made up of issue area experts, community leaders, donors in the area that have expertise in each application area. They conduct a fair, unbiased evaluation of every application, and then they conduct their final committee meeting where they discuss all of their scores and comments to determine grant recipients. One thing to be aware of is that we do provide feedback on applications that don't move forward in the process. So when we reach back out to you in the future to let you know about funding, we do invite you to sign up for a call where we do share feedback with you about your application from committee members. Next slide, please. So we use a tool called Found-It for our grant applications. Some of you on this call are familiar with this system. If you're not familiar with this system, it's fairly easy to use and straightforward. There is a public apply link on our website, but the link is here, and there are tutorials available as well. Next slide, please. So the application for this year contains some of the similar categories that it does in the past, and a lot of the applications have similar categories. You'll see that they ask for your organization narrative. They ask if you're applying for general or program support, and you need to provide supporting documentation in many cases. And we do recommend that you have someone read your application, and before you submit it, proofread it. And at the bottom of every application, you can either save your application as a draft and return to it later, or you can submit. And you'll want to make sure that when your application is complete and you hit the submit button, that you do receive an email verifying that your application went through. If you have any questions about that process, just send me an email and I'll help you out and ensure that your application has been received. Next slide. And then the schedule for this year. So as Sari mentioned, the applications are live. They're available on our website right now. You can click on the apply link and see all of the applications. Applications are due by February 3rd by 5 p.m. I think Sari had mentioned that we only accept complete applications. We don't accept incomplete applications. February through March, then the grants committee will evaluate the applications, and we'll make announcements in April. And then next February, we asked for final grant reports from grant recipients. So Sari, I think we're going to move into Q&A.
I think so. I think Tara is helping us facilitate it. Thank you, Tara.
All right, good morning. Thank you, everyone. Yes, if you have not submitted a question and still would like to do so, we will be taking a look at them. I'm looking at the questions that have come in both through the chat and through the Q&A. So let me just start with some of the first ones here. So there's been a number of questions that are asking, can organizations apply to more than one fund this year?
No, unfortunately, we're going to ask that everyone applies, but people decide to which is the best fit and to please apply in that category.
Thank you. Okay, can you please review the service area for the grants? One organization was asking if organizations in Fauquier County are eligible.
Unfortunately, they are not. Again, our service areas: Arlington, Fairfax, Loudoun, and Prince William counties, and then the cities of Alexandria, Fairfax, Falls Church, Manassas, and Manassas Park.
Thank you. Okay, a couple of questions here about the new fund, the Developmental and Intellectual Disabilities Fund.
Yeah.
Is it limited to those who are born with limitations, or does it include those who have limitations due to injuries later in life?
I would like to have a longer conversation with the organization about that, but I think it's probably open, but I'd love to have a discussion because, and let me just mention quickly, this is an area that we are also learning about, and so I would appreciate the conversation to learn more, and we'll be bringing in, as I mentioned earlier, issue area experts that have some expertise within your focus area. But again, I look forward to having a conversation.
Great, and you will all see at the end of this, there will be contact information for both Sari and Jennifer on the screen. So so you'll be able to address your questions directly that are more about your individual organization. Okay, let me go through some of these questions here. Okay, so this is a question from a new 501c3, less than a year old. Are first Tuesdays appropriate for new organizations to attend at this point?
Yes, in fact, I think that's a great place for a new organization to come and talk to us and learn more about us, but also for us to learn more about them and maybe give them some suggestions or connections that they may not already have. Yes.
Excellent. Okay, are the grants for children, camps, etc., for those offering the camps, or is it also for organizations who serve families and those children who need financial help to access the camps?
So if the question, I think it's for both, if I'm understanding this correctly. So in other words, you're providing financial assistance to children so that they can attend programs that could work. Yes, as long as it's not a scholarship. And I think that's the distinction. But yes, we can talk more about that if you like to have talk about specifics, but yes.
Great. Okay. I'm going through the questions here. So there's one question here about an opportunity for a meet and greet with the Community Foundation. Is there a designated point of contact to set up a meet and greet with the foundation?
Again, first Tuesdays is that exact, it is our meet and greet. That is exactly what first Tuesdays is. And I welcome you to sign up for a time slot.
Okay, here's a request to go back over the safety net grant category. Could you go back to that slide?
Sure. Yes.
Okay, so if you could just one more time review the details of this category.
Sure. So again, the focus area is around housing, eviction, foreclosure assistance, and non-food related emergency assistance.
Thank you. And each of these different focus areas do have their own page on our website as well, so you can see all the details there. Can we apply for general support even if we have programs that are outside of Virginia?
That is a good question. We basically have stated that your organization must be serving residents of our region and the geographic area that I reviewed before. So if you're located here, but you're not serving individuals here, that you would not be a candidate. You have to be serving people in our region.
Can you share how the review committees are selected for each funding area?
Sure. So in some cases, people have been reviewing for us for many years, and they have a lot of experience reviewing grant applications. In other cases, we seek out issue area experts through whether it's George Mason University, there are government, Fairfax, or other county individuals who have expertise in certain focus areas. So some of it is very intentional about who we reach out to help us. And then others are volunteers or community leaders that we identify who have been very active in the focus areas that we are focused on.
Great. This is a specific question about the Aging Fund. Someone would like to know if they can see some past programs funded by the Aging Fund.
Definitely. And actually on our website for everyone, on our website, we have a list of all of our grants that we have funded over the past couple of years, actually. Feel free to log on and you will see the organizations that have benefited from funding from us through this process.
Absolutely. If we receive funding from the Afghan Relief and Resettlement Fund, are we still eligible to apply for a community investment fund?
Definitely. And I encourage you to do so.
Great. Is the Ross Roberts grant opportunity a capacity building grant?
It is a capacity building grant, yes.
Do you require the grant report for last year's gift before the submission for February 3rd?
Yes, actually it's due February 15th. I'm sorry, no, it's due February 1st, right? Jennifer, I want to confirm this, February 1st. Yes, we do require the follow-up report prior to you submitting your application. Exactly.
All right, great. Up to how many organizations will be awarded from the Safety Net Fund?
I cannot answer that question at this point. I think last year, I have to look at the list of how many. I would say on average, we've given out around 8 to 10 grants per year within that area. It varies. And so I don't know until what we do with this process is we basically assess all the funding that we have available and we make decisions about how to organize. A lot of our dollars at this point are unrestricted, meaning that I can then determine based on the number of applications that we do receive, how much funding to put into those categories that are not endowments.
Right. Can you apply for both general and program support, or does it have to be categorized as one or the other?
We ask that you categorize your application one or the other.
I am looking at a couple of questions that are very particular to the organization, asking them about what might be the best fit for their organization for applying. So in general, if someone has questions about that specific to their circumstance, what should they do?
Yes, so feel free, please, to reach out to Jennifer or me to schedule a quick call, and we will talk through your organization and what you're trying to apply for and where we think potentially the best fit is.
In the CIF education area, must the services directly be provided to children and youth, or can they support educators and other service providers?
So I think both, actually. I think at time I think it has, as long as it's been those categories that are described under education, I think they will be considered.
Great. This is a request to jump back to the slide with numbers of applicants and grantees from last year. And while you do that, I'll look through the rest of the questions that might have come in through our chat here. I think I've gotten through the, oh, no, there's still a few more coming in here. Thank you. And by the way, again, these slides will be provided afterwards for everyone to look through again. Let's see. Here's a question. I note that early childhood and workforce development are mentioned in a few categories. What do you advise is the best way to determine which to select for application?
Again, I think it's a matter of having conversation.
Mhm.
So please reach out to us.
When applying for example, a child and youth development grant or any of the grants that are the $10,000 category, can an organization apply for less than 10,000 or the grants 10,000?
So oftentimes we get unusual numbers that are very specific, which we appreciate the diligence on that. But I would say if it's as close to 10 as possible, that would be great. But I know that people are trying to be as honest as possible what they're going to use. I think as close to 10 as possible is best, just because it helps us then when we are making decisions about grants and how to divide up the funding.
Okay. Let's see. Are organizations who have been awarded funding in the past allowed to reapply?
Definitely. And again, I'd like to reemphasize, and I know Brandon mentioned this as well, that again, every year is a fresh year for us. And so we encourage you to, whether you have never received funding or you've received funding over the past couple of years, to please apply if your organization and program do meet the criteria and if it's a good fit.
Great. If you apply for general operating support, do you still submit for a specific fund? And therefore are competing against program grant requests for that fund?
Yes. So here's what I would say about that. It's always a question that comes up. I encourage anyone who's applying for general operating support to explain within their application examples of how the funding will be utilized. And what you're going to be using your grant for general operating, to give the reviewer a better picture. Because I think one of the challenges is when you apply for a program, it's very clear what the funding is going to be used for. And I think with general operating, it's very challenging sometimes. So I think it's all about the description of explaining really who you are and what generally your needs are and how the general funding operating dollars will be benefiting your organization.
Great. A couple more questions about First Tuesdays. What times are they? And again, how do you sign up for it?
So again, there's a Sign Up Genius link that Jennifer will send out periodically to the nonprofit list. And all of you who've registered for this webinar are on that list at this point. So you'll be receiving a communication. And then they're on the first Tuesday of every month, a 9:30, a 10:30, and an 11:30 slot. They're about a half hour, 45-minute sessions. And we encourage you to join us if you have not done it before in the past.
Great. One other question here about what funds are available for general funding.
What funds are available for general funding?
As opposed to program funding.
All of them are available for both general operating and program funding.
Okay. Should the program or season, in the case of general operating, be completed by February 2023 when the grant report is due? For example, for fiscal years who run July through June. So it's a question about what's the timeline?
Right. So the grants, as Jennifer mentioned, the grant checks will be out by May 1 at the latest, so April. And then we ask, ideally, if the funding, yes, could be used by next February, that would be great. However, we do know there are circumstances in which the funding needs to correlate with a academic year or a fiscal year. And so please note, if needed, we can offer you an extension. It's a question about whether or not, if the funding isn't all used, if you could reapply in that given year, and that's something we have to discuss. But yes, if you please just explain within your application, if for whatever reason your funds may not necessarily be used by next February that you're applying for, that would be helpful within the application as well, if you can let us know.
Is it correct that there's only one grant awarded in the aging category, which is a 2-year award?
Correct.
Okay, another question here on general operating. What general operating expenses does this funding cover? Does it include staff time for a specific program?
Yes, it could include staff time. Again, it's how you describe it. And the challenge, I think, is when the reviewers review it, it being very clear about how that funding is going to be used and explaining what the staff time is going to be used for, which type of, what part of your organization is going to cover and take care of.
And on the program side, here's a question about, can program funds be used for hard costs, with some specific examples for home repairs or specific things there?
It depends the program. I know that there's some organizations that is their primary program, that's what some of the offerings that they provide to residents in our region, so in that example, if that's part of your program, yes, you can apply for that.
For the Ross Roberts Fund for the Arts, are the different budget tiers based on the organization's current fiscal year budget or the most recently completed fiscal year budget?
That is a great question. I think that it would be for whatever what you're submitting. So in other words, if you're whatever you're submitting to us, which we're going to ask actually we'll be asking for your previous and your current actually. So I would say actually it would go with your current fiscal year budget. We'll look at it as what you are right now as an organization.
Mm-hmm. Can we apply for general operating support if more than 80% of beneficiaries are in the service area?
Let's talk about that, but I'd like to learn more about your organization. Okay. But if the majority of your clients are within our area, then yes, I would say for sure. I think that there are many organizations that have applied, that maybe even a national organization, but have a very strong presence in our region. But the funding would have to go to support specifically the residents in our region that you are benefiting.
Great. Thanks all for hanging in there. We have just a few more questions coming in here. Based on last year's applicant pool, how many applications do you expect to receive in Ross Roberts funding tier this year? I'm
hoping, because of the tiered funding, we will receive many more applications, but I don't know that for sure. But that is my hope, and I think pretty much an expectation that we've now hopefully opened a door to many organizations that would never have considered applying in the past.
Great. For the Developmental and Intellectual Disabilities Fund, will there be only one grant of $12,500 given this year, or multiple organizations?
So one grant this year, but again, the hope is that we continue to expand the grant making capability within that fund.
Great. If an organization were to be awarded a 2-year aging grant this year, could they apply for another category next year?
If they're in process with a grant from us, we'd have to discuss that. That's something that has come up recently. Actually, Jennifer and I have been discussing that. We have to discuss that and get back to you.
Great. There's a few questions here that are very specific to your organization. So I am going to scroll past them here. If you have specific questions on that, please do reach out to Sari and Jennifer, and they can help guide you on where to put your application. If an organization received Ross Roberts funding last year, can they apply again?
Yes, please.
Okay. Okay, a clarification on the mental health grant. The application asks for a 2-year period. Just a clarification on the amount and the length of the mental health grant.
So the mental health grant is a one-time grant for this year, and it's a $25,000 grant, just one grant.
1 year, 25,000 grant.
Yes.
Okay, we'll take a look at that application to make sure that is in there. Would you consider a 501c19 nonprofit?
I think we will consider only a 501c3 nonprofit, but I'd like to learn more about a 501c19 nonprofit.
Yeah. Does the organization need to provide a financial audit?
It is not required. It is if you have them, we ask for it, but it's not required.
Does the safety net fund direct assistance or also referrals and connections to services?
I think that we framed it as, and let me look back now. the safety net as described right now is mostly around direct service. However, I think we would consider a referral as well.
Okay, so that's again a specific question. You can reach out directly.
Yes.
Okay, the last question that's in the Q&A, what criteria do you use to evaluate specific grant applications?
So basically we look at your organization and the strength of your organization. We look at board, your board, and see how large and how robust it is. We also assess your financials and also make a determination about what impact this grant will have within your larger budget. We don't necessarily want this grant to be a large portion of your budget. We want it to complement other funders that you have and other sources of funding to make your program happen. We look at what you're trying to achieve and your measurements and what your success has been historically in achieving some of your goals. And again, it's really an assessment of your overall organization, the strength of your organization, and then also looking, of course, at what you're doing, the services you're providing in the community.
Great. Great. I am just going through the last of the questions here that have come through chat. A number of the questions here are really specific to your organizations once again. So please do reach out individually to Sari and Jennifer. Sari, can you put the slide onto the last one again with your contact information?
I will.
Someone would like to know, are you still providing grants for the Afghan fund?
So we, at this point, are not. We receive many applications, and our donations are mostly have been granted out at this point. So we are not planning at this moment.
Not volunteering for a grant
If you're
review
interested
committee.
in helping us review grants, please just be in touch with us as well, and we'd love to talk to you.
Great. Oh, someone says the sign up link did not work. Okay, this is the one we just put in there, but you know what? We will test it and we will follow up with including the link to our first Tuesdays for everyone. Oh, first 5. Okay, maybe this one works. Thank you, Lynn. All right, so we may have missed 1 or 2 questions, and I do apologize, but I think we have covered most of them. So thank you all for your participation. And Sari, Jennifer, Brandon, thank you so much.
Thank you, Tara, for helping us. And thank you, everyone. We look forward to receiving many applications, and we thank you for listening. And again, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us and we will schedule some time with you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Take care. Have a good day.